Ashley Moody and the corporate politicians in Washington, they like to label us. It's easier to try to make voters afraid of me than to defend the choices they keep making to make our lives harder. They look at this movement and they call us extreme. They call us radical. But I think people see through that.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
I won't let them define me, and I know you will always know where I stand.
That was Florida State Representative Angie Nixon last night after defeating Lieutenant Colonel Alex Vindman by double digits to secure the Democratic nomination for the U.S. Senate in the state. Nixon is the first DSA candidate to win a major party nomination for statewide office. And she joins us now. Representative, I just first got to ask you, how did you win? Like, what happened that made, just earlier in the show, that made somebody call this the greatest upset in the history of Democratic politics in the state of Florida?
Well, good morning. Thank you for having me on today. First of all, our team, we knew we were going to win because we go out and talk to people and have conversations with folks. I'm a community organizer, a former union organizer, and I have been fighting for nearly 2 decades to address the issues that Floridians have been facing here in the state. Working to increase the minimum wage to $15 an hour before I became a state lawmaker, working to stop price gouging while I was a state lawmaker, also expanding access to early childhood education for low income and hardworking people. And those are the things that Floridians and Americans care about. They are frankly just tired and fed up of these politicians, these corrupt politicians like unelected Ashley Moody and Donald Trump, who are in Washington working less but getting richer. Meanwhile, folks like us, everyday people who are working harder than ever, basically have nothing to show for. And that's been resonating. People know I'm not a politician. They know I'm someone that's just like them, and I'm a public servant that's going to fight for them.
Let's talk about the things you believe in, things you don't believe in. You said you weren't going to allow people to define you. So let's first of all talk about the things that you've said you believe in, and then we'll get to the other things that every DSA candidate's going to be asked about from now till the end of the election. You say Floridians are ready for Medicare for all, universal child care, affordable housing, fully funded public education, and an end to senseless wars. How did that resonate on the campaign trail, especially Medicare for all, a universal health care?
Yeah, for sure. So the state of Florida, Floridians, we are the largest group of enrollees on the Affordable Care Act. And again, unelected Ashley Moody decided to vote against extending the ACA subsidies, which knocked nearly 300,000 people off the ACA marketplace. Medical debt is the leading cause of bankruptcy here in our country. And you got to think about it. People are literally going bankrupt simply because they're trying to stay alive. And so not only that, but childcare here in our state, it ranges anywhere from $800 to $2,400. Universal child care is something that we need. For every $1 the government would spend, it puts $3 back into the economy because it allows parents to be able to work. I am a mother of 5. Me and my husband have a blended family. I have a 5-year-old right now. Do you know how much we need childcare, and that'll free us up to not have to worry about things? And Floridians and Americans all across the state agree.
So, first of all, 300,000 Floridians knocked off of health care support because of the so-called Big Beautiful Bill. It's had a devastating impact across America. Yeah, a big BS still has had a horrible impact for so many working Americans. I want to ask you now about some other issues, and some candidates support these issues, some DSA candidates. I know Mayor Mamdani does not support some of these issues. I'm going to ask you where you stand on defunding the police, abolishing prisons, and opening up the border again. Do you support any of those propositions?
So what I support is making sure that we have law and order in this country. And that starts with making sure there's a full release of the Epstein files and that we hold people accountable. It also is making sure that we have accountability for ICE officials who have murdered and slaughtered people in our streets on camera who
Right.
who unfortunately have not been held accountable and actually have been hidden, honestly. And so those are the types of things that I support. And I want to be clear,
Right.
I am a union member. I recently joined the Working Families Party. I also just recently joined DSA because there were some things, the majority of things that I'm supportive of. But just like I'm a Democrat, there are some things that I do not fully support within the Democratic Party, particularly those corporate Democrats, right? I don't accept
Right.
corporate PAC money, and I want to make sure that these billionaires pay what they owe. And so there are going to be a few differences here and there, but overwhelmingly, what I care about and support are what everyday Floridians care about and support, which is making sure that housing is a right and people have a place to put their heads at night.
Yeah. So you don't support defunding the police?
No, I don't support defunding the police. I do support comprehensive criminal justice reform to make sure we are addressing some of the root causes of people leading into a life of crime.
Right. Willie Geist's with us and has the next question. Willie.
Congratulations on your win last night. Let me just follow up on what Joe was asking, because as you know, now that you're running statewide, your Republican opponent, Ashley Moody, already is saying the positions of the DSA and particularly of you are crazy, calling you all comrades together, et cetera. So what about abolishing prisons, which is one of the platform positions of the national DSA? Do you support that?
I don't support abolishing prisons. What I do support is abolishing for-profit prisons because they exploit labor and they usher many of our children into the school to prison pipeline. Why are we incentivizing the enhancement of penalties and actually allow the enhancement of not actually allowing the education system to be successful? There has been an attack on public education here in our state and across our country, and that leads to children winding up in the school to prison pipeline. I don't support abolishing prisons, but I do support ending for-profit prisons, which also, when you look at it, and look at some data points, you will see that there have been a lot of people that have died inside of these for-profit prisons, or you have seen there's a lot of waste and abuse and fraud within these private prisons, for-profit prisons. And so those are the types of things that I'm against.
And what about another national position, which is the free movement of people, which the DSA means open borders? They say that's what that means. Do you support open borders into the United States?
I support a comprehensive and clear pathway to citizenship for folks. I believe that Border Patrol should make sure that they are securing the border. I believe, though, that there needs to be a clear, comprehensive, and compassionate pathway to citizenship, especially for folks like Haitians and Venezuelans and Syrians. The Haitian community here in our state contribute over $2.6 billion to our economy. And not only that, it's not only just about their labor. It's actually about the culture that they bring here. They are amazing people. And so there needs to be a clear pathway to citizenship, especially if their country is still so unstable. I mean, the Department of State has issued warnings to people traveling over to Haiti. And so how can we be okay with ending TPS status for folks if we say that Americans shouldn't go back there or go visit? And so I, again, support a clear and compassionate, comprehensive pathway to citizenship, as well as making sure that our borders are secure.
One issue I'm sure you've already found as you've traveled the state, and you will find increasingly now in the general election, is the question of Israel. So I'm curious what you would say to a Jewish voter who's interested in you, likes what they've seen in many ways, your economic message as well, maybe an independent voter, Democrat, but also even a Republican who's fed up with Donald Trump and looks at the DSA national position of just cutting off all aid to Israel, economic, military, everything else. Would you support that, cutting off aid to Israel?
So you asked me what I would say and how I would make a Jewish voter or a person comfortable with my positions. And what I would say is that they should look at my track record. I have a proven track record in history of fighting against bigotry, calling it out in all shapes and forms. I believe in the safety and well-being and dignity of all people. And I want to ensure that when it comes to military aid or aid to any country outside of the U.S., that we heavily scrutinize it. Because right now here in our state, in our country, we have veterans that are living unhoused on the streets. We have teachers that are calling my state office monthly because they can't afford to live in the state of Florida anymore. And so we need to make sure that we're putting Americans first before we go ahead and start sending money or military aid to any country outside of the U.S.
So that's fair.
Gene
obviously.
Robinson,
I think that's why.
just as, I'm sorry, Willie. Good.
No, I just wanted to just put a fine point on that. That's why you won your economic message, because people in your state are suffering economically. But just to put a fine point on it, would you support cutting off military and economic aid to Israel?
At this time, I believe what's happening over in Israel and in Palestine is not good for Israelis or Palestinians. And I believe that Netanyahu is a war criminal who needs to answer to his crimes. And I do not support sending any money or any weapons to Israel at this moment. No, I don't.